found three true stories of people who survived situations so extreme that any movie studio would dismiss them as absolutely impossible. Don Alejo. Imagine someone shows up and tells you, hey, this land isn't yours anymore. Don Alejo wasn't just any old man waiting around for his pension. At 77 years old, he'd built an empire in Tamaulipas with his own two hands, farming cattle, respect. He raised it all from the ground up. And in Mexico, where the cartels sadly sometimes call the shots more than the government, being successful is basically like wearing a sign on your back that says, rob me. Los Zetas weren't your run-of-the-mill criminal group. They definitely weren't good people. They were ex-military turned terror machines who did whatever they wanted. When they showed up at Don Alejo's property in November 2010, they came in with the usual, this is over old man attitude. They gave him 24 hours to clear out, expecting him to do what everyone else did. Tremble, obey, and vanish. I mean, that's what anyone would do, right? What they didn't count on was that Don Alejo wasn't your average senior citizen. This guy had decades of hunting experience and zero intention of being intimidated. Instead of packing up like some loser, Don Alejo turned his house into something between John Wick's bunker and a mind-blowing fortress. Every corner, every entrance had a weapon strategically placed. This businessman in his 70s was setting up a military-style trap that would have impressed even the toughest commander. Picture your grandpa gearing up for war, and you'll have an idea of what was going on. When the cartel came back, they walked straight into Don Alejo's ambush. What followed was a shootout so brutal that Hollywood would have called it too unreal. They unleashed more than 1,000 bullets and even grenades, turning the house into Swiss cheese. But Don Alejo fired back with such pinpoint accuracy that you don't even see that in action movies. One by one, the members of the group fell. When the Marines arrived, they found a scene straight out of a Tarantino movie. 4 dead, 2 wounded, and a house that has survived a war. Mexican media dubbed him El Viejo que dijo que no, perfectly capturing the spirit of a man who refused to be pushed around by the country's most feared criminal organization. His story resonated so strongly that it inspired corridos, comics, and urban legends. The ultimate irony? When filmmakers pitched his story to Hollywood, they rejected it as too unbelievable. Apparently, an old rancher taking out 6 hitmen was too extreme for an industry that regularly shows superheroes leveling entire cities. Don Alejo wasn't just an old man, he was a living legend who showed Mexico that not everyone bows down to fear. Tsutomu Yamaguchi, the guy who beat nuclear death twice. Alright, you ready for the story that'll literally blow your mind? Imagine surviving an atomic bomb. Now, imagine surviving 2. No, I'm not joking, and I'm not hallucinating. Tsutomu Yamaguchi wasn't some Marvel superhero. He was a 29-year-old Japanese engineer who basically dealt a low blow to death. Twice. On August 6, 1945, he was on Hiroshima on a business trip when the sun literally fell out of the sky. Well, not the actual sun, but an atomic bomb that went off 3 kilometers away. What would you do? You might cry, go into shock, or just accept that it's over. But Tsutomu was like, nah, I'm good. The explosion threw him, burned him, left him deaf and almost blind. But this dude had something most people don't. A survival instinct tougher than rock. Instead of giving up, he literally crawled through the wrecked city, found a train, and traveled 180 miles to Nagasaki. With burns, deafness, and nearly no vision. Got that? Almost blind. And the craziest part, when he arrived in Nagasaki, guess what? The second atomic bomb. Like life was playing the worst prank possible on him. Imagine being in the office, trying to tell your boss what just happened, and suddenly, boom, another nuclear explosion. The odds of living through that are about the same as winning the lottery. Twice. The Japanese government officially recognized him as the only person who survived 2 atomic bombs within the blast radius. Basically, Tsutomu beat death at its own game. But here's the most amazing thing. Rather than remain traumatized, this dude turned his suffering into purpose. He became an anti-nuclear activist, traveling the world sharing his story. His message was simple: never again a nuclear war. Satomi didn't just survive, he transformed his pain into hope. He literally slapped death in the face, twice. Next time you think you had a bad day, remember Satomu Yamaguchi, the guy who defined what it means to be a true survivor. Jose Salvador Alvarenga, the fisherman who survived 438 days of Pacific madness. Alright, have you ever thought a bad day is when your coffee burns? Well, let me introduce you to Jose Salvador Alvarenga, the guy who took bad day to a whole different level. Imagine going out to fish on a normal day and ending up on a 438-day journey across the Pacific. No, this isn't some survival movie. It's the true story of a fisherman who basically slapped death in the face and left death wondering, what the hell just happened? On the 17th of November, 2012, Alvarenga set out from Paredon Viejo with his partner Ezekiel, thinking it would be a regular day of fishing. A violent storm left them without an engine, no radio, basically nothing. The Pacific swallowed them like a snack. What would you do? You'd probably freak out, but Alvarenga became the MacGyver of the seas. He caught fish with his bare hands, drank turtle blood, and yes, you heard that right, even his own urine to stay alive. His cooler turned into his only shelter under the Pacific sun. Basically, he invented survival on no other choice mode. After 4 months, his partner Ezekiel gave up. He stopped eating and died. Alvarenga kept him on board for almost a week. Imagine being alone in the middle of the ocean with the body of your only companion. Then, he laid him to rest in the sea, remaining completely by himself. The next 10 months were a horror movie mixed with a National Geographic documentary. Hallucinations, suicidal thoughts, the ocean as his only companion. He drifted 6,700 miles. Imagine going from New York to Tokyo in a small boat. When he finally reached the Marshall Islands on the 30th of January 2014, he looked like a character from Castaway. Long beard, wearing nothing but underwear. The doctors couldn't believe it. He literally survived something that would break anyone. The next time that you think you've had a bad day, remember Jose Salvador Alvarenga. This man didn't just survive, he turned survival into an art form.